And we have another fan. Welcome everybody to the ATG show. We still do it for the fan though, because even though we had that second fan show up, I'm not convinced.
You could almost say our fan base has doubled.
It's right. We have a full double of the fan base, but I think our initial fan has learned how to multiply, which is a pretty cool thing that we could sell the show with, right? And we could say, if you listen to the show, you will have the ability to multiply. We got Nate Matthews up there. We got in the top left, and we got Russell Has down there on the bottom, and John Miller up here. Another good show. Looking forward to getting it started. We're going to kick it immediately to Nate because we have news of which Nate is very knowledgeable. So bring it on, Nate.
So let's talk about Michael Thomas. He had 3 ligaments repaired in his ankle. I have had the same exact surgery, and the process through that surgery is not easy. I was after the surgery, I was in a cast for I think 5 weeks, and then in a boot for what was a total of 3 months with the cast and boot altogether. It's not an easy injury or not an easy recovery for this one. When I had it, I missed a ton of work, and when I went back to work, I had a ton of swelling. I mean, it would just that's the next thing I really think we're going to hear from Michael Thomas is the control of the swelling after the surgery. Now I know they have the best doctors, they have the best medicine that money could buy, but that one's not easy to get over at all. If I had to guess, I would say he doesn't play this year, but he's a professional athlete. I'm not. Another thing with that surgery too is they what they do is they sever the ligaments pretty much right off the bone, and they wrap them around a screw and drill them back in tight. What happens with that kind of surgery is if you ever roll your ankle in the slightest again, you go right back under the knife because they have pulled them so tight that when the next sprain really messes them up, it really stretches them out. There's nothing good about it. Now, having said all of that, my ankle has never been better since I had it done probably about, I would say 10 years ago. It's fine. I don't have arthritis. Once I got past all the swelling and stuff like that, it took me about, I would say, a year and a half till I started to trust it and really starting to pound on it. But yeah, this is not an easy surgery to come back from. I wouldn't say it wasn't for me at all, and I really question with his age and with the recovery time it's going to take, and then if he re-injures it, he's done. Like I just don't think if he rolls that ankle again, which he has done several times, to that ankle, he's over with. I think his career could be done. So be careful if you're out there drafting Michael Thomas, and especially in dynasty leagues, and yeah, if someone has him in your league, if you get him for a good price, go for it. But be cautious with Michael Thomas from here on out.
It's interesting because I know that means that we have both of our Titans who feel the same way about Michael Thomas. And Russ, I'm gonna kick it to you here in a second, but I wanted to see it. I'm curious, Nate, because I was expecting what I'd heard from you, which is that you feel like this recovery time is going to be longer than a lot of people are talking about. But it sounds like there's a possibility that he could be as good as it could be as good as new, assuming he doesn't have a setback when he comes back. But you would say there's more reason to be cautious than optimistic even after he does come back.
Yeah, because of the age, really. If this was a younger guy, if he was 24, 25 years old going through a surgery like this, I would say he's going to have a good career ahead of him, as long as he's cautious and doesn't roll the ankle or sprain the ankle again. But having said that, with the age that he is, I believe he's 29 right now. If he plays this year, he's going to be a decoy. I swear he will. There's no way I see that he gets on that ankle and runs those routes out there like that. I mean, you have to be careful with it. It's not something that you could just take the cast off, take the boot off, and start running around again. It wasn't for me at all. And and in that year and a half afterwards, I didn't play hardly any sports and stuff, and it wasn't until maybe a couple years where I started playing basketball again, and I would wrap that thing up so tight to get on the basketball court that my toes would be purple. I was so nervous about it, but and my doctor, Dr. Kenyon, one of the top podiatrists in California, I lucked out getting him. He told me I was done. He told me I wasn't going to be able to play sports again after that. And he said, do it one more time, you're back under the knife. And where are you at after that?
Wow.
And,
Yeah.
I didn't listen. I didn't listen to him at all. I worked on it and pounded on it until the pain went away, honestly. And then eventually it did. And I trust it more now, but it's still something I'm worried about. Every time I step on a basketball court, it's hurting.
Well, thank goodness you didn't listen, because we'll be playing basketball with you again on Saturday. But the original recovery time was set for 3 to 4 months, 12 to 16 weeks, posted as news both times for some reason. And
I don't see it with that at all. I mean, that you're in for 3 months.
Yeah.
Take it off and be fine. It's not how it works. I had to, by the way, I had to do a ton of rehab. After that boot came off, I was going down to the rehab facility twice a week. I was getting on the rubber bands, working the ankle, all different directions. And I think I did that for at least 3 or 4 weeks afterwards, trying to strengthen it up. So it's not just take the boot off and you're good to go. You're running 100 miles an hour again. That's just not how that works with that injury.
Very, very great insight indeed. At 28, turns out, at 28 years old, will be 29 in March. But still, the points are well taken. And Russ, I know you feel the same way. And this analysis of the injury by Nate makes you look awful smart for a trade you made recently. You want to tell us a bit about your thought process behind dealing Michael Thomas and remind us who you dealt him for?
Well, it's still a little bit raw, gentlemen. I hated seeing Michael Thomas go down, especially on the heels of Cam Akers. Yes, I'm still pouting about all of my guys dropping. And I think I've paid my dues, and I should not experience another injury the rest of the year, at which point then I will accept the scenario. But with Thomas, he's one of those guys, my team was one of the older guys that I had, and part of me was starting to think that I should have traded him 2 years ago, coming off of his record-setting year at a high point. Of course, hindsight being 2020, last year he was injured all year, so there was no way I was going to be able to trade him at that juncture. And so then I was hoping in a win-now mode that he could give me one more really productive year, and then I would do my best to try to move on. So when he suffers this injury, part of this is an emotional response. I'm pissed that I nursed that injury last year and got very little from him and really had very little interest in doing it again. Part of it is about the age, and rather being out on a player a year early than too late. And I already am a year too late now. Part of it is about even just some of the dynamics that he has had with the team. He has seemed to be getting a little bit more prima donna-ish, a little bit more conflict with the team in the direction they're going and his role with the team. And then you're dealing with the transition to quarterback. And of course, he benefited from Hall of Famer Drew Brees and putting up stats. We don't know if it's going to be Taysom Hill. We don't know if it's going to be Jameis Winston. We don't know if it's going to be a combination of the two. And yes, he still has performed with quarterbacks other than Drew Brees, but there's no way I'm going to feel as confident with somebody else stepping in as I did with Brees at quarterback. So all of those factors combined, and the fact I told Nate, I'm playing a little bit defensively now, right? I'm in a win now window. I had a really deep roster. It's getting thinner by the moment. And so I would kind of rather get 50 cents on for my dollar than zero for my dollar, which is a very real risk for Cam Akers and Michael Thomas. I'm worried that if holding on to them, I may end up getting absolutely nothing out of them. So that's where I'm at mentally and emotionally, to be honest.
What was it again, Russ? What did you get for him?
So I traded, and I don't feel great about repeating this, but I traded Michael Thomas and Kareem Hunt for Miles Sanders and Carson Wentz.
What else did you get?
That's it.
I'll tell you what else he got. He got that particular trade was made with Green, who he has just viciously violated over the course of many trades over the past few years. And this gives him a chance to say, here, Green, look, you won one against me. Now you can feel free to trade with me again in the future. And then I will take advantage of you some more in the future. That is what another additional benefit that he got out of it.
I'm not gonna lie, that was part of my thought process.
A lot.
But I I'm curious. I would love to hear your guys' critique of that trade. I do feel like I lost that trade on paper. But I feel like I'd rather have, I got younger at running back in Sanders versus Hunt. And I got the number one running back, maybe by committee, it may not be a workhorse, but I got a number one running back as compared to the number two of Kareem Hunt. And in the wake of the Akers loss, that appealed to me. Wentz was just throw in, and honestly, I'm with all the trade rumors about with Philadelphia, I thought I might just need another quarterback just to make me feel a bit safer there. So that
What do
was
you
my
think, Nate?
process. Yeah, Nate, what do you think?
I see why you made the trade. I'm not a Sanders guy. I've been adamant about that for a long time. I do like Hunt, so that's. But this situation with Hunt's not ideal. But this is also his last year on that contract with that team too. So who knows where he's going to end up in a year of time. Wentz was just a comical piece in the trade. I thought. I've hated on Wentz for years. I mean, even before he went down the first time, I've told Russ several times, I just don't like the way the guy plays. He's just not my kind of fantasy player that I tend to gravitate to. We're getting into Michael Thomas. I mean, I would have done the same thing. I would have moved him right then, because if the news comes out that he's not playing this entire year, the value drops even more from there. The next year he's a year older. Maybe he's still nursing it a little bit. I would have pulled the trigger too to get rid of him. I really would have.
Yeah, and the pieces. I agree with your evaluation of every single one of the pieces. When the move was first made, I actually felt like you lost it a little bit, Russ, because the evaluation process that I was currently operating under was that we were going to see Michael Thomas this year. Now, we haven't had any reports that say that we're not going to see Michael Thomas this year, but I do trust Nate's evaluation on it, and I do see how it could get complicated. They waited longer than I felt like they should have to go under the knife in the first place. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Like right when the season ended. I don't understand that. I mean, I knew this surgery was coming when I had it. I knew it was coming for a year that I needed this surgery, and I just don't see how they didn't know. The doctors didn't know that he needed this. It's a very simple test to see if you need it. They put your ankle on a live x-ray. They flex the ankle joint. If it moves more than 2% than your good side, then you require surgery. Mine moved over 15% before they stopped because they didn't want to dislocate my ankle. But it's so simple to tell if you need that surgery. So I really don't understand why so much time passed before he had it done.
Yeah, and it was an early year injury when he got rolled up on, and I think the narrative was that he wanted to try to be there for the playoffs. But everybody who remembers the playoffs knows Michael Thomas was not a factor, and even so, they could have done the surgery right then and there as soon as they were bounced out of the playoffs, and they still didn't. So I share your frustration and bewilderment. I will say, Russ, I'm not sure that Titans are allowed to complain. I'm looking for the jury's still out on whether or not Titans are allowed to complain. But I'm just the owl. Who knows, really? Speaking of which,
can I say one more thing?
Yes, absolutely. You're the Titan.
That we didn't factor into this is that it seems that there's almost only one player that I can trade with in our league, and that's Green. Right. So if I had confidence that I could wait and make a move, then I might have waited. But it's almost like, hey, Green's on the line. I can make a deal now or never make a deal at all.
You're opening up a whole.
You have earned that credibility with me, so I'm going to close that deal with Green when I can.
You're opening up a whole different bag of cats with that throwaway statement there. An incorrect throwaway statement, by the way. You and I were involved in trade talks before I traded away Darrell Henderson. Yes, we were. But before we do bounce it to the first segment, which is you Titans weighing in on a few of the Owls' takes on the upcoming 2021 season here. Let's talk a little bit about the big news, which really, you could say we buried the lead, because for as long as everybody's been waiting today, we are recording today on the first day of training camp, and Aaron Rodgers has reported, all the reports are that Aaron Rodgers is going to get a deal done that allows him to play through the 2021 season, this upcoming season, and then be able to control his own destiny after that. And every sense that I get is that he's going to keep playing. That's my read on it, but it could very well be that he just retires. But 2021, he's going to be a Packer. He's going to play for the Packers. And after so long of uncertainty, and even following the Vegas and other sports books taking the Packers down off of their sports books,
What a roller coaster with that.
in assuming that Aaron Rodgers was going to retire, and it was reported as such, many trades for Jordan Love, I'm sure, across dynasty leagues within that window. And then just a few days later, we get the report that he's back, and he's going to be back. What do you guys think?
Well, Aaron Rodgers is an enigma. That's for sure. I think the only person that knows what's going on in his mind is him and probably his girlfriend Woodley. I don't know. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the conversations he's had with the ownership and to really know what's going on. And I think I'm not the only one that feels that way. The situation is very strange. I really do. I mean, first he's mad. He turns down the biggest contract to make him the highest paid quarterback of all time, and then comes back maybe for just this year. Now here's my bold prediction on this. He plays 2 years in Green Bay. And the reason being is I think Devonta Adams is not going to get a contract, but they can franchise him. And I really think that they're planning on, just this is my perspective on it, that they're planning on going to another team together. And he might just wait for that. This might turn into a 2-year last dance, and then they're out.
Famously, they posted on Twitter that picture of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen in the last dance, sort of implying that it was their last dance, and it's further fueled the fire that made it feel like they were both leaving. Some were saying that Devontae Adams is going to be traded to the Raiders. In fact, my brother sent us a text saying Devontae Adams was traded to the Raiders, and he was mistaken because there were false Twitter reports. But that just goes all in with the many upheavals that were going on these past few days. But your prediction there, you're thinking like a general manager there, Nate, and that's how you became a Titan in the first place. Russ, what do you think?
I differ from Nate's take. I feel like Rodgers is going to play this year, and I think he's out. I think that he's been disgruntled for some time. I think that he is willing to come back and play this year and get compensated for that. But I think he's very much wanting the opportunity to control his own destiny, as you said, John, and almost Brady-like, right? Almost be able to show any naysayers, be able to show the Green Bay organization even that he's not dependent upon them. And in fact, has probably been held back by them, and he wants to go to another team.
Yes, held back by them.
Yep, and cement his legacy by winning a championship elsewhere. I think Nate talked about being an enigma. I don't know Aaron Rodgers. My impression is that he's pretty prideful, pretty stubborn, and I think he's out to prove something now. Which then brings me to this year. I wonder how this year's going to play out. And I have two conflicting narratives. One is he plays with his hair on fire, right? He is just pissed, and he's going to show the world who he is. But then the other is, how do you remain functional when you've already established that you're on your way out, right? I saw somebody on Twitter talking about, how difficult it is when you turn in your 2-week notice to keep things above board and to make things, hold it together for those 2 weeks when you're on your way out. He's got to play an entire season like that. And I just wonder how challenging it will be to keep things together and keep them solid. And I wonder how that's going to impact the team and if that's going to have any negative impact.
I think he was pretty pissed off last year, and he was the MVP.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what I was going to say. I understand the comparison, but the professional sports is different. It's 1 week at a time. You are going to help me win this week, this time. I'm riding with you. You're my quarterback, and whatever your hangups, I know you're the best one to help me win this game. And I don't think there's an argument to be made in any other direction other than the Packers have held Aaron Rodgers back. I love the history of the Packers and the Packers organization. I was a huge Brett Favre fan, but I think if you go back through all of the process that led us here, I don't think there's any way to go about it other than Aaron Rodgers has a legit beef.
Yep.
Yeah. And I don't even think they need their head coach this year. Do you think their head coach is going to be calling the plays out there?
Nope.
When it's 5 yards to go in the red zone? No. Aaron Rodgers is going to do what Aaron Rodgers wants.
They would have been better off if he hadn't been calling the plays and settling for field goals last year. We may have seen a whole different Super Bowl.
Right.
But that's kind of my point, right? Those finer issues, right? Like, is Aaron Rodgers really going to defer when he needs to defer? Is what kind of conflict is going to come from the fact that Aaron Rodgers is going to burn it down? He doesn't care. I just don't know how a team, it's still a team sport, and it still requires a whole lot of people rowing in the same direction. And I will just be curious. I wish they would do a documentary on this year, because I would just love to see what comes out of that kind of dynamic and that kind of situation. Obviously, there's incredible dysfunction. That's not going to be solved by this short-term pacifying contract. Those things are still there. And I believe they're only amplified by the fact that Aaron Rodgers is now on an Aaron Rodgers agenda. And he may light it up. I would have said mathematically he's going to regress just because he was so incredibly efficient and productive last year. I don't think anybody has done that 2 years in a row. So mathematically, I'd say he's going to come down. But now, what do these dynamics do in that whole process? I'm incredibly intrigued to see what happens.
Efficiency wise, he'll probably regress. But I like Nate said, he was pissed last year. There was tension last year. He wanted to do things. I believe, and I have believed, that Jordan Love being the quote unquote quarterback 3 last year and not even the strict direct backup, I believe that was because of Aaron Rodgers. I believe Rodgers said, you put him as far away from the field as you can put him, and let me show you how stupid you were to make this pick. And I believe that's what all of this was about, controlling his own destiny. I'm going to light things on fire this year. I'm going to show you what I'm all about. I'm going to audition for the team that's going to sign me. I'm going to put up another MVP caliber year, and the rest of the team is going to follow my lead, because that's exactly the way we did it last year.
Where's he go? Where's he go next year?
It's a great question. I mean, the Broncos were so heavily in speculation, and we know that they didn't do enough to address their quarterback situation this year. So unless Drew Lock takes an unexpected leap forward, we could absolutely see him go to Denver.
He would have to take a massive leap forward to pass up on Rodgers.
Agreed.
I mean, he's a good guy that could really. I mean, he's a guy that could really sit behind Rodgers, maybe learn some things. Let Rodgers plays for a couple of years and maybe come back out there. You know, I really don't know what's going to happen with this situation. Stay tuned.
And this is the team that signed maybe the greatest quarterback of all time in Peyton Manning in his twilight years. And Aaron Rodgers, you could argue, has more left than Peyton Manning did at the time they signed him.
Well, clearly Denver struggles to draft and develop quarterbacks. So they should stick with that plan and just poach future Hall of Famers.
Poach.
Yep.
It worked for him.
Yep.
Yes, indeed. Let's get the Titans' take on a few thoughts that I have here. The first, so in every one of these cases, this is titled, I'm just the owl, but hear me out. I have something that I think will happen in the 2021 season, and I want to hear the take from both of you Titans. If both of the Titans shoot it down, just know you, the fan, should go with whatever both of the Titans think. But I will then at that point say what my reasoning was for putting this thing up in the first place. And the first is that Robert Woods of the Los Angeles Rams will be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy in 2021. Nate, we'll have Russ go first in the second one. But Nate, what do you think about old Bobby Trees this year?
That's something I could see happening, but I don't think it will. Right now, I have him ranked at about 14 is where I have him, just behind CD Lamb and just ahead of Julio Jones and DJ Moore. I really don't think that he will be a wide receiver 1, and that's not talking about this. I mean, the talent's there. The situation is definitely there. It's just those top 10 wide receivers are pretty much a lock the way I see it. You know, it could happen, and he's going to have huge games, and he will feel like a wide receiver 1 at some point this season. But I don't know if he will get there that high. Just not. He's going to miss it by just a little.
Before we see if it's a Titan sweep, could I ask you to text me those rankings of yours there, Nate? Maybe you could text me your personal feelings. That is fair. Russ, what do you think? What is your thought? Robert Woods, wide receiver 1, 2021.
So I hate to agree with Nate again, but I do agree with Nate. Rationale is somewhat similar. It's almost like taking the field right over Robert Woods. There are so many great high-end receivers. I think it's very difficult for Robert Woods to make that cut. And especially Nate, you said 10, because we're a 10-team league, a number one receiver really is a top 10 receiver, correct? We
Yeah.
all agree? Yeah, I think that's very difficult. Obviously, like they're going to air it out. Akers is down. It feels like they're going to air it out, which is certainly going to benefit Robert Woods. He's incredibly reliable. But Cooper Kupp had a down year last year. And I have equal enthusiasm for Cooper Kupp. I think he's going to bounce back. And that's going to make it more difficult for Robert Woods as well. So I love Robert Woods, but I'm going to say no on the top 10 finish.
So both of the Titans are against this one. So you guys know what to do. Fade thinking that Robert Woods is going to be a wide receiver one. Still useful, of course, but not a wide receiver one.
Solid number two. A
solid, absolutely. And I'll go to bat a little bit for my little hourly statement in that what helps you finish in that top? You got to be healthy. You got to be consistent. And Robert Woods has been where you ranked him 14, I think you said, Nate. He's
redraft, dude. That's redraft, not dynasty.
And we're talking about 2021. But he's been in that spot 14, just outside the wide receiver one conversation. That's where he's finished year after year after year with Jared freaking Goff as his quarterback. And so, in my opinion, with the new toy that Matthew Stafford represents for Sean McVay, they're going to throw a lot more. And Robert Woods, all he has to do is just be the guy that he was with a much, much more capable quarterback. And that puts him as a wide receiver one. I believe that's all it's going to take. Stay healthy, stay yourself, and be on an offense that's going to score a lot more points. But you know the way you should really go about it, though, talking to you, the fan, because both of the Titans don't think he's going to be a wide receiver one. All righty, let's hear about Darrell Henderson and how he will be a top 20 running back and finish higher than Mike Davis. There's a reason why Nate's not talking first on this one, because we already know his answer. But Russ, what do you think about this one?
I'm saying yes. I'm with the owl on this one. I do believe that Darrell Henderson finishes as a top 20 running back. Now, is this assuming health?
Assuming health, and it's assuming health, and it's assuming that they don't make any big depth chart shakeups, which all of these things are possible. But assuming we go into the season how it is currently, and I do believe that is what they're going to do now after they've come out and said they're not going to play him in the preseason at all, which is the kind of thing that you do with your valuable running back you plan to use a lot in the regular season.
Yeah, I do believe that he will finish top 20 running back. Again, when he got the carries last year, he was highly productive. That offense is going to be better, I believe, than it was under Goff. He's going to have plenty of scoring opportunities. He's decent out of the backfield. The Mike Davis part, and again, I advocated for Mike Davis, but Mike Davis is a lot older. I'm not convinced he's going to get the same amount of work that I believe Darrell Henderson's going to get with the Rams. So I'm with the owl on this one.
Nate, come shoot it down.
Now, I disagree with what Russ just said. I really think Mike Davis is going to get a lot more work than Henderson. And I mean, the quality of work might not be as good, that's for sure. But I don't see Henderson holding up for an entire season. He didn't last year. He hasn't before. In fact, I think he was hurt in college too. I think I might have read that. I could be wrong on that. I'll have to double check. But I currently have him right at 25 is where I have him. And Mike Davis being the one guy that sits right in front of him at
24. Very nice. Well, it looks like I picked a wonderful line. The Titans are split. That means I don't have to defend myself, and I'll take it. Moving on to the next one. Mike Evans will have over 1,100 receiving yards in our year of the Lord 2021. Nate, what do you think?
I think that's an easy one. I think he'll do better than that. We got another game this year in the NFL season. I think 1,100 yards will be pretty much easy for him. I think this is a shoo-in.
One Titan down. What do you got, Russ?
Yeah, I'm with Nate. I think that 17th game is a significant factor, and Mike Evans produces. It's not always as consistently as we want, but the guy produces, and I think he's going to get 1,100 yards.
Love it. I agree. It's a slam dunk. The only wide receiver in the history of the NFL to start his career with as many 1,000-yard seasons in a row as he has, which I believe it's up to 7. And so that's why I upped it to 1,100 yards, because I feel like he's at least a mortal lock for 1,000 the way he's been playing. And we added the extra game. Chase Claypool will be a wide receiver 2 in fantasy, or perhaps even better in 2021. What do you think, Russ?
I am going to say no on this one. And rationale being, they have a studly young running back by the name of Najee Harris that is going to take touches and even receiving work from the group. So I think that's going to be a hit. They have 2 other solid proven wide receivers and Deontay Johnson and Juju Schuster that are also going to compete for looks. I think Ben will be more productive this year. I think his arm strength is going to rebound a little bit, and I think they'll be better. But I think there's just too much competition across the board for him to reach wide receiver 2 status.
Very
He'll
reasonable.
have explosive games. But I do not believe his overall season finish will be wide receiver 2.
That is one giant Titan thumb down. Nate, what do you have?
I have him as a low end wide receiver 3. I'm not saying that a wide receiver 2 finish is out of the possibility for him at all. He's talented. He's got Big Ben throwing to him. Was that a good thing this year or a bad thing? Jury's still out on that one. But whether he hits that wide receiver 2 mark, if he does it, he's just going to slide right in, I believe. But I don't see it happening. He's a low end wide receiver 3 for me.
So you guys, you the fan, you guy, you know what must be done. Both Titans are thumbs down on this. Don't see Chase Claypool as a wide receiver 2 in 2021. But here's the reason why I, the Owl, believe that it should be the case. Let's all remember all very, very good points as to the crowdedness of the wide receiver core and the fact that they plan to run the ball more. And I believe they will. I don't think they could possibly justify the Najee Harris first round pick if they're not planning to ground and pound that bad boy. But let's all remember how long they let Juju Smith-Schuster float out there in the wind in free agency. Go ahead, find somebody. Go ahead. I dare you, get your long-term contract. We're not going to match it. We're going to give you a 1-year contract if we disdain to do so after you're done. And he took forever, tried to find somebody, didn't find somebody. The Steelers sat on it, ultimately decided to give him a 1-year contract, and then Juju Smith-Schuster came out and said, I had all these offers. Yeah, I don't buy that for a second. The Steelers were more than willing to let him walk and decided to bring him in when they realized they could get a discount for a guy that they know could be a productive receiver for them. That means they were more than willing for Chase Claypool to be their wide receiver 2, or maybe even their wide receiver 1. But we'll see. Johnson got all the targets. There's no reason to necessarily expect he's going to supplant him, but there is reason to expect that they believe Chase Claypool is ready to take a big leap in his next season, not unlike a very similar receiver in DK Metcalf did. And so I think Chase Claypool, that is the reason why I believe Chase Claypool is going to take that huge jump. But both of the Titans said no, and I doubt very much I have persuaded either one of them. Last checks, did I persuade either one of you guys?
Not at all.
Not at all. Damn it. All right.
Good argument, though. Good argument.
Calvin Ridley will lead the NFL in receiving yards. This is actually not anything that is meant to be some sort of hot statement, because he's currently the odds-on favorite among at Vegas to be the NFL leader in receiving yards. So, do you guys agree?
Am I going first?
Well, I think it's only fitting that you start with the guy that you've openly stated you're incapable of being. You're incapable of being anything other than biased with Calvin Ridley.
Did the Ridley homer on this one, so go for it, Russ.
Well, I will say this again. I feel like you have to pick the field, right? Like if you're gambling, and I can take the field or I can take Calvin Ridley, I'm taking the field. However, I think there's a lot of reasons to suggest that Calvin Ridley will indeed lead the NFL in receiving yards. I believe he led the NFL in air yards last year. You are taking away the competition of Julio Jones for targets. You do not have a proven running back. You still have a porous defense. You still have a quarterback who can chuck it around pretty accurately and pretty effectively. And Calvin Ridley has already produced in his first 3 years. I think the stage is set for Calvin Ridley to set the league on fire this year.
Nate, we have one big old Titan thumb up. What do you think? You adding the second Titan thumb up?
Question for us. What's the percentage chance that he does this? What would you say?
Again, I'm going to be conservative because there's a lot of good receivers. I would take the field. I'll say 33% chance.
33%. That's higher than I would have said, but it's absolutely possible. The only thing I could really see standing in the way is Matt Ryan, or just maybe this whole offense taking a step backwards from last year. Their defense, I don't think, has improved very much. So they're going to probably have to be airing it out at the end of games, just like they were last year. That garbage time could really stack up with him. I look at the list of wide receivers around him. All of them have a great shot of accomplishing this, but really, I don't know. If I was going to put my money on a wide receiver, he would be the top three that I would do so, maybe top four, so it's a close one. That's a close one.
Which is probably mathematically incorrect, but why I said 33%.
Two Titan thumbs up. It's interesting. I think there's a good chance that the Falcons offense is going to be a lot worse without Julio Jones, because we've seen them be worse without Julio Jones always. But we still saw Calvin Ridley get his. He didn't necessarily get his in the red zone, though, I will say. And I do think there's an argument to be made that even though Julio Jones had this rep for years of being this inept receiver in the red zone and never got his touchdowns, I think he was just getting a lot of attention, and Calvin Ridley was really benefiting from that. So we'll see if Ridley can still score the same amount of touchdowns when he's the guy, or maybe now the big old Hulk of the new tight end rookie that comes in and he gets all the attention, much the same way that Julio Jones did. Maybe Pitts will be the reason why Ridley will still see the same space, because he's a great route runner. And obviously there's still Calvin Ridley is a to the moon stock right now among fantasy circles.
The problem with the offense is a lot to do with really Mike Davis. I mean, if let's say he doesn't pan out, and just doesn't have a good time there this year, they're going to have to throw. They're going to have to throw a lot, So really being that yardage leader is very doable. And I don't really see them on the other side of that, though. Let's say Mike Davis does just fine this year. I don't see them stacking the box against him too often. I really see them doubling up on those wide receivers. And I mean, who's the other wide receiver there? Gage? I mean, I just don't see him making a huge difference. I think Calvin Ridley is going to constantly see double team. I think that Pitts will be lined up pretty well against those linebackers that could probably not handle him at all, but they're still going to be able to give a decent amount of defense attention to them. So I don't see very many stack boxes against Davis. So it's going to be a rough year for the Atlanta Falcons this year, I think. That's a good point. I will say with the Mike Davis, you and I have kind of back and forth with Mike Davis a little bit, and I mostly am playing devil's advocate because I have gone out and traded for Mike Davis in two of my other dynasty leagues as a 1 year have a starter where I wasn't feeling great about my RB2 situation, basically off of your recommendation and obviously the clear acknowledgement that he is set for a lot of work, but he's never been the guy. So we don't know for sure that an older guy who's never been the guy is going to be able to hold up physically himself. It would say that that's not going to happen. I mean, his history would say he's not going to hold up all year and have a successful year. And I think he's going to have some really great games to be very useful in fantasy, but I just don't see him being that great running back that you're just so happy with. He's a flex play.
Absolutely. All righty. So we have had a lot of enjoyment with the Travis topics. And so here is our next in a long line of great Travis topics, the very top bullet point. How long do you wait before you consider a draft pick a bust? I think this is a fantastic question, and I'm super eager to hear what you guys have to say on the subject. Russ?
Sure. So I think my answer is 2 years. And I have heard a couple of people say recently that they want to, if they're going to miss, they want to miss big and they want to miss early. And so, I've heard some people argue that 1 year is it. If they haven't hit in the first year, odds are of them hitting are greatly reduced. Cut them and move on. I'm not quite able to do that. Typically, if I've drafted a guy, there's some belief that in that player. And I think it's a lot to ask a player to produce in that first year. So me personally, I'm often going to roll it back for another year and see if I see the potential, if I see anything changing, if I see them producing, if it's somebody that I believe in. If 2 years have gone on and I'm still not seeing it, I'm probably moving on at that point.
I have a follow-up question to that. I agree with you, and I think we have a lot of people. I mean, Dylan the Gray, we talked about him recently. He is the poster child for that. One year of struggles between Tua Tagovailoa and I'm forgetting off the top of my head who the other wide receiver that he has that he is also not letting go, was a first round pick. But
Mims, maybe.
Denzel Mims, thank you, absolutely. And how they were first round picks for a reason. I'm not giving up on them yet because they could just as easily put it all together. And it's a really good point, and it's probably the right way to approach it. But you did actually recently cut ties, Russell Howell, with a first round, second year receiver who's only had 1 year to do it. You want to tell us a little bit about your going back on that particular approach with Jalen Reagor?
John, I feel like you're really kicking me when I'm down right now. I already said I lost that trade. I also mismanaged that trade. I typically try very hard to make sure I know how many people I'm getting back because I don't have guys I want to cut. And then I said, okay, Green, I accept that deal. And then because I had Thomas on the IR, I thought that I had an extra spot to bring 2 guys back for my 2. But when I included Thomas, now I didn't have space. And then I had to sit up and look at my roster and think, crap, who am I going to cut?
Who of these, every single just banger after banger, who am I going to have to let go? So you're saying that given your druthers, you would not have dropped Jalen Reagor?
I would not have cut. I wanted to see what Reagor was capable of doing. I did not want to cut Reagor. I was then disappointed to see Matt Miller show up. Matt, you still didn't respond to my trade offer. Matt showed up out of the fog and picked him up and added him so that I couldn't pick him up later. That was disappointing for me. The choice for me came down to Reagor and Boyd, and I think Nate would have said cut Boyd. But Boyd has been productive in that. And again, the Bengals are going to whip that rock around. And so I felt like I needed to go with Boyd over Reagor, but that hurt me to cut him loose.
Well, Nate, as our second Titan, before I have you weigh in on this question, he attempted to put words in your mouth. Are you accepting those words? Would you have said cut Boyd instead of Reagor?
In a standard league, yeah. PPR, not so much.
Gotcha. All right. How do you feel about how long do you think we should wait before
wait, one more second. I know. I'm so sorry.
No.
The other factor in that decision for me was the exposure that I already had to Philadelphia. So I have Jalen Hurts, I have Dallas Goedert, and then I just picked up Miles Sanders. So at that point, do I really think that 4 players are going to hit in Philadelphia this year? No, I don't think so. And so that was the final factor for me into choosing Reagor over Boyd. Sorry.
So I think Russ would say you can expose yourself in Philadelphia, but just don't expose yourself too much in Philadelphia. Right. I think we can put quotes around that, right?
All right, Nate, go ahead.
I knew that you had some love for Reagor. You know, we've talked about it before, and I personally don't. But I was surprised to see you get rid of him, and now to kind of find out the story behind it, maybe me drafting a defense that's already been on someone's roster isn't so bad. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I believe Reagor sat out there on the waiver. He made it one day before someone actually picked him up, which did surprise me. I thought someone would grab him that first day, but no one did. You know, so Matt, yeah, he's your guy now. You better stick by him.
It's a nice little pay for nothing lotto ticket, that's for sure. But how long do you think we should wait before we consider a draft pick a bust, Nate?
Oh man, you know, I would really like to hear Green's take on this one. Just out of all the guys in the league, this is the one question I'd like Green to answer, because I would think he would say by the second preseason game. It's a 2-year thing for me too, maybe 3, but I would have to see something out of him. Maybe an injury kind of like changes my mind there a little bit and give him that little 3-year option there. But yeah, for me, it's 2 years. And it is case by case and maybe position by position. I mean, running back, it doesn't happen by the second year, I'm really not waiting that third. Wide receiver, I'm more likely to wait that year to that year 3. And a tight end, maybe I'm willing to maybe give it 4 years on that. So position by position might be a little bit different for me.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. And I mean, it's position by position, and there's exceptions to every rule, right? I mean, it's certainly examples of those who have bucked those trends. But I absolutely agree with that across the board. Do we have and if you guys see any topics here that we don't touch on this one, and you really want us to touch on it in the next one, then feel free to comment on it and let us know. And obviously, you Titans, if you have something from this list that you want to discuss right now before we move on, we absolutely can.
Yeah, 2 things I would have done last year if I could do differently: trade Akers and Thomas.
I imagine that the bullet points when the fan put that out there, I imagine they were saying with the knowledge that you had at the time.
Yeah, well.
Oh my goodness. Alrighty, so the honestly, I'm very happy I'm very excited for this next segment because I get to go after ESPN, and I have a feeling that that I'll be getting some support because I've heard a few things from Nate over the years about ESPN getting a little lazy with their management of the fantasy app. But my beef with ESPN is one thing that's very recent, but sort of is a indicative of a way in which that they're operating. Another thing that's been going on for a really long time, and I've just been trying to find a way to say it to anybody who will listen. The recent thing is ESPN recently posted a video entitled "Dez Has Still Got It," in which Dez Bryant is on a football field with some high school kids, and he makes a one-handed catch. And it was a just fine one-handed catch, but I absolutely could have made that catch myself as my middle 30s, short, portly, middle-aged man. And you're trying to entitle that Dez has still got it. When we saw teams giving him a chance that he didn't deserve last year, he proved he didn't have it. And what in the world is just horrible clickbait? And I think that's what I mean when I say that it's indicative of what we see from ESPN so much. Just you've gotten more than enough great news to be able to go off of. We want to be able to see what you have to report to us. You don't need to put out ridiculous clickbait to be able to fill your content on the ESPN site. Yeah. Before we get to the next rant that I have about ESPN, I wanted to see if either one of you Titans had anything you wanted to say about that.
Well, maybe you missed part of the whole line. Maybe it's Dez Bryant still has it against high school players. He was at one time, so maybe he still got it. I don't know.
I just want to say amen. I feel like the old man on his porch telling the kids to get off my lawn when I echo what you're saying. But I feel like when I was a kid, and in probably ESPN's earlier years of inception, it feels like it really did represent a love of sports. And that's what came through in their programming, in their coverage, in their commentary, was a love of sports. And now it feels like it is a love of clicks, right? A love of really empty, vacuous debate and commentary. I can't stand the personalities. Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, the personalities are no way like they were.
It's just not intelligent. To me, it's not engaging. It's not interesting. It feels like teen social drama, and I hate it. And I'm so sad to see that that's where it has moved. So John Miller, I'm 100% behind you on this rant.
Yeah, and I think anybody who wants to come to the aid of ESPN would say that it's emblematic of just social media in general. The internet space is all clickbait, just all up and down it, and that is true. But ESPN is the biggest. They can set the tone, and they don't have to go seeking clicks because they don't need them. They don't need the bait. They're going to get the clicks. And you mentioned the biggest rant that I've been waiting to go on for so long, and that's Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith is a garbage personality. I mean, as nobody should be listening to Stephen A. Smith about matters of anything at all. And I think that even includes NBA at this point, because he started off as an NBA reporter and obviously was very knowledgeable about the history of the NBA and the current goings on in the NBA. And like all of ESPN's contacts with, when they're on the beat, they are heavily in the know, and that's when people go to them to give information when they are a beat reporter. And he had that for sure, but he is not worthy to comment on the goings on of the NFL, college football, baseball, all of these things that I see people, the ESPN posting as Stephen A. has a take on this. And all we're doing is listening to him yell over and over and over again, being the loudest voice on any kind of video that you click on, so much so that they brought in other loud voices to then yell at him. And now we've got Stephen A. Smith yelling at another person, and I'm sure that I'm forgetting somebody's name because I can't watch it. I can't bring myself to click on it. I would be more up to date on the specifics of the Stephen A. Smith circus if I could stand to watch it, but I can't because it's horrible. We should not be looking to people as experts just because they happen to be loud and charismatic. I cannot even believe that he was ever considered as an expert at anything but basketball, and it absolutely depresses me that we've gotten to this point where he is seen as this expert figure.
I think Russ has his hand up.
Yes, Russ.
First of all, preach it, John. I love it. I was thinking of a specific example of what is so disgusting to me. So I have not watched the NBA much for years. My team does no longer exist, so they lost me as a fan. But I watched some of the playoffs this year, and I saw, the Suns made a run, right? Devin Booker was putting up points, scoring buckets, doing a great job. And then ESPN personalities come out and say that Devin Booker is the greatest Utah Jazz player in history.
Ouch. They didn't say that. They didn't say that, did they?
Yes, ridiculous that they would discount
second all-time
John Stockton, Karl Malone. There are other secondary people that I would list before. And Devin Booker's a great young player. What?
Hornacek, not him.
Yeah, I would say Hornacek above Booker right now because Hornacek did it year after year in the playoffs. So that kind of short-term thinking and ridiculous commentary just invalidates the entirety of what they have to say in my book.
Yep, absolutely. I think that I couldn't have said it better myself, no doubt.
Yeah, when it comes to Stephen A. Smith, man, I just turn it off. I don't even listen to him. The best clips of Stephen A. Smith is when Kevin Hart's making fun of him. I mean, he's kind of become a joke all around sports. I love it when people do their impressions of him. I mean, that's what he's good for, But the constant yelling and the my shit don't stink attitude. Well, I guess you have to beat that out. But
we're far enough in.
Yeah, yeah. Our two fans might have clicked off by now. But
that's very true.
But yeah, I can't stand him. He's just one of those kind of people that I couldn't warm up to if we were getting cremated together.
I love that line. So Russ, I am not. I am, like you said, I follow football religiously. I don't follow basketball as nearly as closely. But you said Devin Booker and the Utah Jazz. Is he not a Sun? Is he not a Phoenix Sun?
Yes. Forgive me. I'm sorry. They were playing against each other. That's pretty egregious on my part. But same argument that they would. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by some text coming.
Absolutely. I mean, he hasn't earned it, right?
No.
Even Charles Barkley, who has become, just a caricature at this point. When you watch Charles Barkley play, that man was an absolute baller. It's amazing to go back and watch Charles Barkley clips if you ever get a chance, because it's amazing to watch him play basketball.
Yeah,
was a beast.
Absolutely. I'm glad that we got it's always so fun to be able to sit down and talk some football with you guys, and so I appreciate you guys letting me add a rant to be able to get that off my chest, because I was waiting on that one for a long time. But do you guys have any other football notes that you want to throw out there before we depart?
Rant, just in case ESPN is watching this for some weird reason. Dude, fix your app, okay? A Superflex, tight end premium. Where are these options? Get with it now. I mean, come on. Sleeper and all these other ones are blowing you guys out of the water, and you kind of started all this. I mean, it's ridiculous. And to me, they got one of the best looking apps still, but the usability and the tweakability of the app is so far behind the times. It's ridiculous.
Good call. I wholeheartedly agree. Shout out to Sleeper. Started a league on there recently, and they are, like you say, blowing everybody out of the water, especially ESPN speaks to the laziness we talked about at the beginning. Russ, you want to do any more Titan level complaining?
No, I'm good. Thank you for the opportunity. Pull up next to you on the porch.
You guys are awesome. Looking forward to the next one, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
See ya.